Anita Furlong. Anita is a psychiatrist who works with us quite regularly. Anita, good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. And you?
Good, thank you. The first thing is the story of the day, unfortunately, is this horrendous news where children are found, young teenagers are found guilty of murder. The Kriegel case. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult for parents to leave the radio on, to leave the telly on. And there have been warnings by all the reporters that report on these things over the last long while now. It's been such a long time. What's your initial thoughts on it? How do parents in particular talk to their children about traumatic subjects such as this?
Yeah, and that's a difficult one for any parent to figure out a right way of doing that. And I don't know if there is exactly a right way. I think it's going to depend very much on the parent, the age appropriateness of what they're going to tell their children, and also then how much does the child want to know? Are they asking questions about it? And maybe be guided by the child in it, in what they want to know. One thing I will say is I don't think we do children any favours in hiding, pretending, not telling the truth. But then bear in mind, age appropriate. And that depends on the child.
It does totally. Because some children are quite mature in their thinking at the age of 12, 13. Others may not reach that same level of, I suppose, understanding until they're 16 or 17. Yeah. So there's no, in a situation like this, in terms of talking to the children, there wouldn't be any specific cut-off point, would there?
There isn't really. I think you will be guided by the child themselves. Do they ask? What are they going to ask about? What is as well a family culture of how do you deal with those things? How do you normally talk about these issues with your children? And be guided by that.
If a child does ask and is listening to the news and says, how could two young boys kill anybody, kill a beautiful young girl? How could they do it? Mm-hmm. What do you say to them?
Yeah, and the truth is you don't know. Unless you are a psychologist or a psychiatrist there on the spot, you don't know. And I actually wonder myself, do the boys know themselves really, what was going on for themselves at the time? And I think it's okay to say to a child that you don't really know.
The Kriegel parents, we can't begin to imagine the pain and suffering they've had. And this very public trial.
Yeah.
Can we even begin to think about what they're thinking?
Yeah. And I mean it doesn't actually bear thinking about. I think all of us would shy away from the thought of trying to imagine even something like that happening. We don't know. The reality is we don't know how we deal with something until the time comes. And sometimes we're stronger and more resilient than we think. And sometimes looking at it from a distance and trying to imagine how can someone do that? How can somebody withstand that pain, withstand that torment? It's incomprehensible to us.
Anita, thank you very much for that.